You have never personally participated in big charity shows. What made you say yes to Live Aid?
Well, I have participated in big charity shows, but I'm not, and also I privately have a lot of organizations that I'm involved with, charitable organizations. I have my own camp for underprivileged kids in America that I've had for like, I don't know, at this point, over 8 years, and you know, that's involved with the Fresh Air Fund, and it's a cause that's very close to my heart. I've been involved with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, a number of charities that I feel are really important, you know, but I'm one of those people that I don't feel like when you do something, you have to announce it to the world, but being that the Live Aid concerts were about creating awareness, I felt that if I can in some small way help to create awareness, then it's very important to be involved. And it was one of the highlights of my entire career. You know, just being involved in that concert, just having Bob Geldof call me, and even, I never even knew he would know who I was. So it was just an honor. And,
yes, I read somewhere that you were not sure if the audience would accept you at Live Aid. Why were you so concerned?
Well, I think that the show in Philadelphia was much more, I sort of think that that show had artists that people would expect me to be on the same bill with, whereas the show in London, you know, really a lot of people came to see the reunion of you know, The Who and Pink Floyd, and to see Sir Paul McCartney, and just so many huge legends of rock, you know, that I really didn't know how I fit into it, you know what I mean, at all.
Why shouldn't you fit in?
I just felt that it was more of a rock and roll leaning crowd, and I didn't know if they would accept, you know, really how they would feel about me. You know, it's really hard to know. You really never know. But the highlight of my performance for me, I don't know if you saw it or not, but I performed with the African Children's Choir, and you know, everybody who was involved that I worked with, my backup singer and friend and all of us, we were so in love with these kids. They were so amazing that they really inspired my performance. Performing with them inspired me to really just go through it. Even though I didn't feel confident and really know how the audience would accept me, the children's choir made me sort of have the energy and the stamina to get through it, and it made it
actually it was children whose parents have died from AIDS. How did that affect you?
Well, it's, you know, when you look at the children on stage that I perform with, the African Children's Choir, and the organization is amazing. They've been together for 20 years. I actually met someone who was once one of the children in the choir, and now he's grown up to live his dream. He's a journalist, and he interviewed me for BBC, and he was telling me that the song Make It Happen that I did on stage had inspired him to pursue his dreams. And you know, that was such a huge compliment to know from where he came, that he's now doing his thing, and I played a small part in it as just a writer of a song, was amazing. But the fact that those children have all been through such tragic, you know, horrible moments at such an early age, and you see them, and I mean, I was singing for the crowd, but I was turning around and singing to the kids a lot, because their smiles are so exuberant and their faces are just so full of love, and it's just an amazing thing to see. Yes, they've been through worse things than most of us can ever imagine, but they're survivors, and so it was an honor for me to be on stage with them.
During your own childhood, your family suffered from poverty and racism in New York. How did you experience that?
Well, honestly, I feel like my parents and my older brother and sister had a worse time because they were in like an earlier time, like more in the 70s, and that it was very difficult for them to be in the suburbs and to be an interracial couple, and just, to me, it was not, they were not in the right environment. But when I was growing up with my mother, more like in the 80s, that was like still something that people looked at me like I was different because I was from this mixed background. But you know, I didn't have as tough a time as they did because it was later, but it was still internally, just inside. I felt really different. I felt ostracized. I didn't feel like I was part of anything. Also because my mother's family disowned her when she married my father. They pretended like she never got married.
But did you actually experience racism yourself?
Yeah, I did. At school, just things that people would say. Being with my father when we would, you know, on the weekends be together, just the way that people looked at us because we looked different. You know, I was a little blonde-haired kid when I was little, and my father was a black man, and they looked as if then they could tell that I was of mixed race, so people looked differently at you than they do. Even when I would be with my mother, because my mother is very, you know, she's Irish American, she's very white looking. I don't really look like my mother. Certain physical features are similar, but, you know, it looks like I'm mixed with something, so people would always look at us like, okay, what's your father? And what, you know, it was always a question of what are you? And I still go through it today.
You were 5 years old, or 4 years old, I think, when you decided to become a singer. I know many little girls who have that dream, but you actually fulfilled it. And you're famous for your vocal range and ability. How high can you go?
I don't know. Today today I sing bass. Today I'm singing at the lowest part of the scale. It really all depends on the amount of rest I get. I've really learned that certain things play an important part in my voice, staying in shape, like resting, humidity, you know, not talking and sleep, and that's the whole thing. My mother is very technical, so she knows, wow, you just hit this note that's blah, blah, blah above high C, and I'm like, what? Okay, whatever. Because I sing R&B music and I'm not technical. My mother's very technical, so she knows all that stuff, but I don't know.